I'm GF Miller, and I have rearranged my entire house so that my cutest chair is in front of my favorite bookcase. And I've donned my fictional character t shirt, all so that I can read you an excerpt from my newest book, What If You Fall for Me First? You ready? Let's start. Chapter 2, The Worst Person Reporting for Duty. While Glow Night ramped up inside, Holden had been outside doing a dry run before going live on his feed. He took each of his posts very seriously. It was his image on the line, after all. You never know which picture or video will be the one that pushes you over 2,000 followers, or for that matter, goes viral. So you have to treat every post like the big one. Which is why, after making the rounds inside to get a feel for the room and see who looked post-worthy, Holden had come back out here to practice and prepare. First, he'd made sure he was standing with his shoulders back and his head tilted a little to the side, like his favorite influencer, I Go Big, always did. Then, he'd checked his teeth in the selfie cam and finger-combed his hair so that it was sticking out in just the right places. Out here with nothing but one street light, the highlights in his dark blonde waves were barely noticeable. He hoped they'd pop into the black light. By starting the video out here, his followers would actually be able to hear what he was saying. Plus, there would be that Dorothy opening the door to Oz effect when he transitioned from natural light to black light. He'd do a quick, hyped intro, something like, "Let's check out this epic glow party." Then he'd flip the camera and do an action cam shot of walking in. He'd pan the room and a girl in a pink puffy coat slammed through the door, made a noise like an angry bunny, kicked the building, and flopped to the concrete. Angrily, she tore a glow bracelet off her wrist and whipped it at the stately Lincoln Junior High School sign. Then she dropped her face onto her knees and started making sniffling and whimpering noises. "Hi," Holden said, since she clearly hadn't noticed him standing right there while she had her meltdown. Her head popped up and she looked him over, her face visibly registering disappointment and suspicion, which was hurtful, honestly. He recognized her, Sophia Santini. She ran cross-country and acted shy around guys. She also consistently wore clothes that looked straight out of the girls' age 4 to 8 department at JCPenney, which was a very specific style choice. But one thing you could say for Sophia was that she was always smiling, cheering on other people, and just in general being nice. She was like a human Care Bear. He'd never seen her fully freaking out before. It was troubling. Inside, the drumline's cadence came to a messy end, the musical equivalent of a five-car pileup. Holden realized that between Meltdown Girl out here and whatever was happening in there, he wouldn't be going live anytime soon. Resigning himself to the missed opportunity, he slid his phone into his back pocket as he said, "Why are you out here crying?" "I'm not crying," Sophia insisted as tears ran down her cheeks. She swiped at them and turned her face away. "Please don't." Holden hadn't moved or done anything since Sophia had landed in his production space. "Don't what?" he asked, genuinely at a loss. "Don't say anything. Just go away, please," Sophia begged, dragging her sleeve across her wet face. Unfortunately, her jacket was water resistant, so all it did was smear the tears around. "I just really want to be alone right now." Holden was no child psychologist, but he had spent more than his share of time in the family therapist's office. He could recognize a cry for help when he saw one. Sophia didn't look at all like a girl who should be left alone. So, even though he was probably the worst person for the job and he didn't know her at all, and she had temporarily derailed his social media career, Holden figured it was up to him to cheer her up. Luckily, talking to girls was kind of his superpower. Chapter 3. Why is he still talking? "Well, it's a public sidewalk, and I was here first," was Holden's smirking response to her heartfelt plea for solitude. The thing was, she lied. She didn't want to be alone. She actually hated being alone. She just didn't want to be with him. Holden was the very last person she would have chosen to see her freaking out. He was way too publicly into himself, and he had a reputation for being a player. Plus, her friend Destiny told her almost daily in very colorful language how untrustworthy Holden was. Most of it Sophia couldn't repeat, not even inside her own head. Destiny had a real way with words. On the other hand, Sophia's mom always said not to judge too harshly because you never know what people are going through. But it was hard not to judge him when he was standing over her, smugly refusing to give her space and posing like a pick-me boy. That was too mean. Sophia felt guilty for thinking it. She gave a reproachful look, partly directed at him, but mostly aimed at herself. In response, he shrugged casually while also flexing his shoulders. She could tell he was flexing because he had on one of those tight athletic pullovers that cost like $100. It was the kind of thing a guy would wear hoping to get old. Sophia startled herself by laughing. One surprise that broke through her misery. What? Holden said, still closing. You, nothing. Did he really not know how silly he looked when he flexed like that? Sophia wiped her face again. At least she didn't feel like bawling anymore, but she still wished Holden weren't there. Someone was shouting in the gym. Sophia recognized Eve's voice, then Andrew's. Looking intrigued, Holden walked to the door and looked in. Even in the dim glow of the school's parking lot lights, she could see his face register surprise and then amusement. What's going on in there? Sophia asked, curiosity overcoming her general distrust of Holden. Eve McNeil is going H. Holden glanced at her before finishing with shoes. 8 shoes? Sophia hoped he could see the skeptical face she was making. She obviously knew that wasn't what he had been about to say. It was embarrassing that he'd changed it for her, like she was a little kid or something. He shrugged, then flexed. Weirdo. Eve was one of her good friends from the cross-country team, but she'd been going through some really rough drama with Andrew. They used to be besties. Then they started dating, and then it turned out that Andrew liked somebody else, or maybe that was just a rumor. Sophia wasn't clear on the details, but she knew Eve was struggling. Now, Sophia was genuinely worried that Eve might do something impulsive. Is she okay? Sophia asked. She's fine, Holden assured her. Glow paint's not toxic, right? The look on his face could only be described as FOMO. Sophia offered, you should go in. But for some reason, Holden leaving her alone with her self-pity felt less appealing than it had just a minute ago. She figured that watching him flex and pose was a good distraction. That wasn't the real reason. It was actually nice to have someone to talk to, even if that person had a bad reputation and was acting kind of weird. Holden turned away from the little window, patting his phone like it was a fussy baby, and said, it would be pretty crappy to leave you crying in the dark. Sophia stood. Wow, that's chivalrous. Why do you sound so surprised? Holden clutched his chest as if she'd stabbed him. I'm sorry, Sophia said. She honestly hadn't meant to hurt his feelings. It's just different for you. Ouch, girl, ice cold. I'm not trying to be mean. She chose her next words carefully so he wouldn't have anything to get offended about. You're just usually kind of, I don't know. The word misogynistic came to her mind, but her mom was constantly reminding her to be kind, and she wasn't completely sure what it meant, so she said, flirty. Holden faked coughed, as if her statement was physically choking him. Oh, I would never flirt with you. You're like somebody's kid's sister. So sweet and innocent. Sophia exhaled heavily. That right there is her problem. Hope you enjoyed this excerpt. What if you fall from me first?